the portal, how does that affect your playing freshmen immediately at all, if at all? What's your philosophy on that, coupled with the redshirt situation?
Yeah, I don't care, really. I'll be honest with you. I mean, the best players play. I don't. That goes in zero to my thinking of who plays. And honestly, the portal piece is it's really kind of always been my philosophy is, man, if it's not working out, then you should get in. And we do everything in our power not to put young people in there. I think we've had a really great success rate over the course of the last 4 to 5 years of retention rate. I think probably one of the best retention rates in college football. I still think it's about how you treat kids. And, I still think the decisions you make on playing time, that's the greatest gift you can give to your team. And it still has to be earned. And you got to put the players in the position that have earned the right to get on the football field. So, I've always been honest with our kids. I think you've heard me say this a million times. I'd rather play you too late than too early. But for me, those are just how I feel about it, and rather be bluntly honest with our kids and kind of let them know exactly where they stand in our program, and then try to help them if they're not where they want to be. Man, here's what you got to do to get where you want to go, and I think our staff has always done a really good job of that as well.
Thank you for that. Is Cooper, what's his situation?
Yeah, I think Coop is certainly trending, positively. I think tomorrow will be a big day of practice for us in terms of, will he be green lighted to go? But certainly is, I would say, a lot more likely to play than less likely to play, at least as of right now.
How imperative is it for this group, as young as they are, to reach a bowl game and get some of those extra practices?
Yeah, I think those things are huge, for, our football team, our program. I think those are things that are invaluable. I've always said it's hard to get better at football when you're not playing football, and I think the one nice thing that the bowl season gives you is it just gives you time. It gives you time to continue to grow and develop in the sport, because once that season's over, you just can't replicate a lot of preparing for a game or getting those opportunities. Spring gives you a little bit of that, but I just think it's imperative for this football team to continue to grow forward. So certainly a huge milestone for us last weekend.
Matt, I know senior night's always emotional. What do you expect this one to be like with, I guess, so few seniors?
Yeah.
But the impact they've made on this season.
Yeah, I would say what this senior class has done has been nothing short of remarkable. I talked to our kids on Saturday after the game. This group has handled hard better than any group of kids that I have dealt with, at least here, for the last 8 years. And, you have to have great senior leadership to be able to persevere through hard things, because it's just the way of the world. It's like, what does the veterans in that locker room say? What do they believe? And, so many of them have gone through adversity, some of them even adversity this fall, and the character and resiliency that they've handled either their own situation, some of the challenges that have come on our way. It's been nothing short of remarkable. And so, I talked to those guys, in May, and we talked again, and I meet with them every Thursday morning, and, remind them that if we are going to become the team we've got the ability to be, we're going to need leadership for the ages. And, what you're dealing with and what you've had to deal with is not easy, and it won't be easy. But leadership is the ability to, galvanize the people around you, and your spirit and how you do everything is being watched. And they've been nothing short of incredible every step of the way for us.
You're talking to Rocco, and he said this will be the best defensive front you faced. Obviously, look at the interior guys, and then you got former lacrosse player on the edge leading them with sacks. I mean, they've got a lot of talent across the board. What's that like to contend with?
Yeah, just uber talented everywhere you look, and I mean, it is Texas, it's what they've been about, what they've stood for. I certainly feel like Coach Sark's done a great job just over the course of the last couple of years of just continuing to build that football program to what, it certainly has the ability to become, and they're clicking on all cylinders in every phase of the game. They're elite on special teams. You look defensively, across the board at every level. They've got great football players, and then, you flip it over on the offensive side, and they've got elite playmakers on the outside. Certainly a great quarterback, veteran offensive line. And what a great challenge. Great challenge for this young team to step into an arena with this kind of football team, and we'll have to have a great team game plan to be able to win the football game.
it's been your, excuse me, your since the last 8 years, the animosity your fan base has for Texas, and have you noticed a anticipation for this game that maybe supersedes other ones?
Well, the nice thing I like about our fan base is usually that's spread out to most teams, you know. No, I don't know the answer to that. You know, I know personally from the inside our respect for Texas, just in terms of, you know, playing down there, and certainly what the history of that football program has been about. You know, playing them here, you know, you just, you know what you're playing against. You're playing against some of the absolute best players in college football, and like I said, I've got the utmost respect for Coach Sark. I think just how he goes about it, what he's done to that program, and just the elevation that he's had in a couple short years, it's been really special to watch.
When you guys have Cooper versus when you don't have him, what changes for you in terms of what he's able to do that maybe the guys behind him can't?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is veteranness, you know, and you're saying that as for a sophomore, but he's played so much football. You know, he started since really game 3 of his freshman year, and I just think one thing Coop brings to the table is a confidence and veteranness in the system. And, you know, you replaced him last weekend with a true freshman, and, you know, honestly, probably a lot of excitement around that true freshman's performance. You know, I thought J-Mo was terrific as he settled into the game after that first drive. I thought played an incredible football game. And so, you know, you never like to lose a guy that has veteran leadership and playing as well as Coop has played. But I just think it's veteranness and confidence within the defense to do his job. And I think you circle back to, man, when you do have a guy go down like that, what are the benefits? Well, the benefits are you get some young guys in there, and, man, you see exactly what happened last week. And a guy like J-Mo, who's really stayed the course and played as a freshman, his number gets called and he takes advantage of it. And I think really huge for him as well. So, you know, continuing just to build the depth of our football team.
What have you seen from Jeremiah? I mean, he's playing at such a high level, but hasn't been able to stay on the field. How he's managed that?
Yeah, I don't think that's easy. And again, you've asked a lot of a true freshman to come in here. You know, I mean, he's played a ton of football already. And, you know, I think he's done that with probably out the opportunity to physically, you know, grow into still the football player he's going to have the ability to become. I mean, you know, last year didn't get an off season because, you know, man, had surgery right as the season ended. And so for that guy just to, you know, get to this off season and really get a full 6 months in the weight room and be able to physically grow and develop, I still think that's part of his journey of him becoming the best version of Jeremiah that we'll get to see. But from a football player standpoint, the way he plays the football game, great anticipation, physical football player. You know, he's got the mental resolve to do it. And even you saw the mental resolve, you know, honestly, you miss all spring, had to miss a little bit of fall camp, and still be able to start the season the way he did and play the way he has. I think it tells you a lot about his character and being able to be ready for his moment to get back on the football field.
TJ said going back to high school, he never saw himself playing the position he does now. What did your staff see in him that you knew he could be successful on defense?
Yeah, I think, you know, certainly you'd start with what did we see? It would have been the God-given athleticism that he has. You know, I mean, I'll always go back to watching TJ play basketball, you know, and one of my all-time favorite high schools, you know, we had a lot of really good players from at the University of Toledo from TJ's high school, so we got a great relationship with the head football coach there. And, you know, you're watching the basketball games and there's this incredible athlete playing basketball. And then you go through the recruiting journey, and a lot of that was through the wide receiver play of him. And then you flip to he comes to camp and takes a couple reps at corner, and you're like, holy smokes, maybe this guy is a true NFL corner. And you get to the early part of fall camp his freshman year, and you're like, man, I think the best bet for his future is take this athleticism and let's see if we can mold it into, you know, a great corner. And I think the biggest thing TJ did was trust us. And, you know, I think that's not easy today. And certainly a guy that's, you know, a basketball player by nature and a scorer on the basketball floor, a lot of times you want to score on the football field. And I think his path to get to what he's become, it's been really fun to watch because it's never been easy. As talented as he's been, he's had to work really hard to become great. And I think the way he's played, certainly even over the course of the last 4 to 5 weeks, he's become a great football player and really proud of what he's become. But I think a lot of trust and a lot of faith in our staff, and honestly, a lot of perseverance from TJ. He's really went to work physically, mentally to really become, you know, a great cornerback here at this level.
Rocco and
Matt,
him
there-
were going back and forth. Rocco said he has terrible hands. TJ said that you should watch the practice film, that he's getting after him.
Yeah,
Does-
Rocco shouldn't say a whole lot about athleticism to a whole lot of people. So hey, we love Rocco, and it was nice to see him run a little bit last week. But he should keep his athleticism comments to himself.
I was gonna say, does TJ humble Rocco a little bit or help him with going against defenses in practice?
Oh yeah, I think I think Rocco would give a lot of credit to, I mean, honestly, all fall camp, and we've done a lot of good on good really throughout the football season in terms of practice. And man, when you got to go against that defense and certainly that secondary at times, they challenge you. And I think that's really helped the development of Rocco and JJ, and I think all those guys have grown because, just competing against some of those guys in the secondary, I think it's been huge.
Matt, there's a lot of tiebreaker scenarios out there. What have you told your team about this title chase?
Yeah, honestly, we really haven't talked a whole lot about it. Our focus really has been we want to play meaningful football in November, number one. Number two, we certainly celebrated the milestones of, winning on the road last week, the opportunity to, become, bowl eligible. And then I think the focus really this week is about these seniors. And, you're playing obviously an incredibly exceptional football team coming in here. Our kids understand where we want to be. We've said it from day one. We don't need to talk about those things. We need to do it. And I think sometimes you can talk and sometimes you need to do. And, I think that's one of the great things about this group is, man, just worry about the process it takes to become the best, and then we'll let the chips fall where they may. And this group's really been able to handle that.
Coach, Humphrey kind of talked about how since
For Jared's time. And to me, winning football games in college football is really hard to do. And it doesn't matter who it is, and you guys that cover us, it's not easy. And, it takes 60 minutes of your best no matter who you're playing, where you're playing, or, what it looks like. And that's, I think, what makes college football really special is, man, every Saturday, no matter what it feels like or looks like or what anybody thinks they know, man, it's really hard to win games. And so it'll take our best for us and, for our seniors. My biggest thing is I want to represent what the character and spirit of this senior class has looked like, and I think that's more important to me than anything on how we play the game Saturday.
To start the season, 3 or 4 games without a rushing touchdown from a running back, and then third to last game of the season, you have 4 rushing touchdowns with the running back. What growth have you seen from that room, especially in playing a true freshman like Abu?
Yeah, I think you saw a lot of young guys grow up. I wish I could speed it up for people, sometimes, but it's a process. And man, how many times have you heard me say that? I mean, it is. It's a process. It takes, a commitment to excellence to get there. And, a lot of young guys, some veteran guys that were getting their first crack of being the guy. And I just think it's been a really fun process because they've all stayed the course. They haven't wavered. And, last week I got up here and talked about Jack Sadowski played his best game of his career as a true freshman. It's game 9. He's got himself, finally confident in what he's doing and really starting to play to what his potential looks like. And, you can say the same thing for Abu, did a great job last week. And, that whole room, I think Eli Sanders probably had been the most veteran player in that room. And, we lost him for 3 of the first 4 weeks of the season. I think that really hurt us. I thought Cartavius did a good job kind of stepping up. But, man, you're talking about a guy that played very little last year and going into his sophomore year. And I think you just see him continue to grow and get better week in and week out. And then obviously Carson Hansen has, I think, some of the plays that he makes that you probably don't get to see, how he blocks, how he catches the ball in the perimeter, how he's run the ball. I think just that room in general has just really grown up. The neat thing is there's great competition. And when you have great competition, it makes practice really rewarding. It makes growth really rewarding. And, the guys that practice the best get to go into the game and play in the game. And so I think that has helped all those guys really start to develop probably at a faster clip than maybe what we've seen at times.
Hey, Coach, sign stealing seems to be in the news, obviously, with Jim Harbaugh. How concerned are you that other teams try to steal your signs, and what steps do you continue to take in order to block signals and things of that nature? Just curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just it's a world that it's been a major factor in college football for 10, 15 years. I think, we, from an offensive perspective, I think have grown immensely in just how we call plays because of that, to be honest with you. I think we completely overhauled, systematically how we called plays even a year ago, just because I think some of those things are the nature of college football, and so I think that it's more of a process of how you call a play on offense and defense, and just got to have awareness. Obviously, it sounds like, maybe we'll be going to the NFL system, which would be great if that's what's going to happen. I think that certainly is a long time coming in college football. I mean, we should have been there and need to be there. That just doesn't make any sense that we're not there. But hopefully, all this craziness will finally get us to where we should be and match the NFL system.
Can you elaborate what you mean by that?
Yeah, I just think the fact of, we should.
Specifically how the NFL system works.
Yeah, just the ability for, communicating to the quarterback or to a linebacker on defense. I think it'll help, navigate some of the things that go on in college football. But, the biggest thing is, again, you'd like to do that to help our kids prepare for the National Football League, to be quite honest with you. I just think it's another step that, makes most sense and certainly probably brings the most consistency to the sport of football in terms of any sign stealing or whatever that looks like.
Coach, I know there's a lot that goes into it, but in Big 12 play, you guys are a perfect 24 for 24 in red zone trips and resulting in points. How have you been able to do that?
Well, I think we've been really fortunate, at the kicker position. I think the consistency that Chase has brought has really been allowed us to score, once we get into that red zone and have the confidence. I certainly think you look at Rocco's production down there, I think he's done a really great job of taking care of the football in some of those areas. That's probably been the biggest growth area, in my opinion, is our ability to take care of the ball and put ourselves in scoring positions. And then, I do think as the running game has grown, you got to be able to run the ball. The field shortens, and, you got to be able to run the football in some of those areas. So I just think all those things have collectively helped us as we've grown as a football team.
Coach, the moment right before kickoff when you sort of collect yourself, is that something you've always done? And what are you trying to do mentally, internally, personally, when you're having that kind of quiet moment by yourself right before things get going?
Yeah, I just think to find clarity. I think the game of football is so emotional. My job is to be at times emotionless and equally, put our kids in the best position and our coaches to play the game. And I think, trying to just find a sense of calm and sense of peace, and also be grateful for, the opportunity that I get to do. It's still a pretty awesome experience, whether you're on the road or whether you're here at home and you get to run out and be a part of something like this. And, I know that won't last forever, so you're appreciative of those opportunities for sure as well.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, guys. Thank you.